last one. Vaughan, can you go around to Captain Bates, Mr. Coleridge's, and ask him if he wants Heaven, Scott and Harvey to do raft duty, and if so, when?
Boys at Eton can expect to spend their first year as fags. They make tea, act as waiters, tidy libraries, clean shoes, and generally run, fetch, and carry. The fags are the lowest layer in a society where rank and duty and privilege are strictly defined. The top layer consists of the captain of the house and the half-dozen members of library. The housemaster stands by at the top of this social structure as a consultant. The ultimate sanctions of this society are, of course, punishments of one sort or another. Members of library can give lines, and the captain of the house can beat boys, but nowadays only by permission of his housemaster. It used to be thought that order in a school finally depended on the cane, but the two most influential boys at Eton have abolished corporal punishment within the sphere of their jurisdiction. What kind of life you have at Eton depends very largely on the kind of boys you have at the top of your house, and these change. Under an enlightened captain of the house, life can be very pleasant. But with an unenlightened boy and a bad housemaster, it could be a misery.
I want a Mars bar.
He wants it, but I never get it.
And
how much commission are you talking? One Mars bar. Have you got my orange bed? College wanted! Hang on.
Hurry up, College, please.
Are you
Quiet, please, College. Just 1 or 2 points of the kind which do occur this time of the half. Running down Sixth Form Passage is bad again. As you know very well, the floorboards which you run down Sixth Form Passage go straight through the Mastering College. And so every time anybody runs down outside there, he knows all about it. It's quite intolerable. And it's even worse for his housekeeper living underneath it. So there won't be any running down Sixth Form Passage. And Sixth Form and Liberty will give 50 lines on the spot to anybody they catch doing this. Another point, a rather more seasonal point bound up with the fine weather. You mustn't hang your bathing trunks out of your window for any purpose, especially to dry. The reason for this is that it's bad for the tourists. Now, Calman, I think you have...
Yes, we've got somebody deserved his cap.
Thank you, College.
3 afternoons in a week are half holidays, and at Eton, games are regarded as a very important part of education. If you're keen, the opportunities are all there, and if you're not, you don't have to pretend to be. In the summer half, you have to declare yourself a wet bob or a dry bob, and you'll be expected to spend some time in whichever sphere you choose. Eton has its own 2 incomprehensible games of football, the field game and the famous wall game. And though they do play rugby football and association in the Easter half, it's rather an amateurish sort of enterprise in the time left over from the Eton Games. Of their comprehensible activities, cricket and rowing are what they do best. The captain of games is only less of a god than the captain of a house, and much more of one for some people. It's in the summer half that he and his friends come into their glory, and there's a lot of glory, but they earn it handsomely. The whole burden of the school's athletic future is on their shoulders.
3, you are the powerhouse of the Rangers. You've got to behave as if you are. More effort the whole time. Every stroke has got to count. Hard.
Up to your chest, 2, and 3. Come on now. Punch! Punch, all of you. Punch at the beginning of the stroke. Pull it right up into your chest. Your hands away. Get down to your saxboard. And then pull it right through again. Hard, really hard. Well done. That's good. Cox, next stroke. Give her 10.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh, you ready? Hard! Come on! All together!
1, 2, 3.
Water, every through. 5 days jerky, sit back at the finish. Come back to your stomach. 2 days jerky. Well done. Going straight into the head.
The Combined Cadet Corps, training for all 3 services, is far from being the compulsory chore that most schools make it. At Eton, it's difficult to get into. 20% of all Etonians make a career in the services, much more than the public school average. The Corps is taken very seriously, and there are 3 long exercises every half. Golden afternoons are a great theme of books about Eton. In fact, the Eton afternoons are pretty strenuous for most boys, and by tea time they're relaxed and expansive. And the real occasion of the day is tea. Eton's great gift to its boys is privacy, the freedom to choose their own associates. Friendships made at school are often deep and last for life. That's why the Eton Old Boy Network is so formidable. Library has its fags in attendance, but the great merit of the Eton system of private rooms is that junior boys are not left out. Tea is a social occasion for them too. Messing together in 3s and 4s is an old established school custom. This tea is a very ordinary one of cornflakes and bread and butter and jam, but the occasion is no less expansive, and the conversation has the Eton quality of self-possession.
Lines is a very effective punishment for most things, but I think that perhaps one ought to have corporal punishment as for something really rather more serious. Anyone who takes advantage of the system whereby corporal punishment isn't inflicted. If you think of another better punishment, so they're really serious.
Okay, maybe it isn't better, but it's just wrong to inflict pain. Just what's the point? It doesn't do any good.
No, it lasts 5 minutes in a row.
Presumably the point of the punishment is to stop the chap doing it next time.
Exactly.
Well, and I would far rather.
Depends on, you must admit that it depends.
I mean, I'd far rather do lines than being beaten, because beating me would.
Although the conversation has been mainly about beating, it has not occurred to anyone to challenge the senior boys' right to this barbarous privilege. Few question their authority.
I sometimes wonder whether the burden of demands made on a senior boy isn't almost intolerable. I think it's wonderful how they stand up to it. But the answer to your question, I think, is this. That one of the lessons most worth teaching to a young man is that the greater your power and privilege in life, the greater your obligations and the less your freedoms. Many people I know in positions of power and privilege haven't remembered this. We can all think of some. But in fact, this is the one worthwhile thing learning if you're going to be a big man ever. And you cannot teach this to a child, or to a boy, shall I say, to a young man, without giving them the authority and then trying to teach him the lesson.
Well,
what about the sweet? And strawberry. Strawberry.
The president of Pop. One talented old Etonian has declared that the effort of getting into Pop deprived him of all further ambition in this world. Pop is the Eton Society and one of the peaks of the Eton social structure. There are always exactly 20 boys in Pop, and the society elects its own members. Pop has taken on the maintenance of school discipline. As Eton is a collection of houses, it lacks any overall system of boys' authority at school level. Pop has filled the gap, and in return is privileged to wear buttonholes, sponge-bag trousers, braided coats and fancy waistcoats, some of them with flowered silk. It is a summit of ambition.
The great thing is the corps must find their own substitutes. The other thing is these jerseys, which are not being V-necked enough. In fact, they're not being V-necked at all. Try and sort of find people for a bit over that.
This is in change.
This is in change, yeah.
What is the rule about sunglasses?
Sunglasses are only allowed to be worn by coxes on the river.
One of the charges levelled against Etonians is that they're arrogant. An example quoted against them is that in important inter-school cricket matches, it's quite likely that almost nobody will turn out to watch. In fact, it doesn't occur to an Etonian that there's any other reason for watching a match than the fact that it interests him. He has so many other things to do. A very old established sport at Eton is beagling.
Come on then. Come on, wagon up, wagon up. Come on. Come on. Come on then. Yeah, fans. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Adrian, where's the box spanner?
It is behind my right ear. Elmer's with it.
In the engineering workshops, you can build a car or mend a motorcycle, or you may prefer simply to turn out thousands of bottle tops for a local factory. The money comes back into the funds of the engineering workshop. There's no end to the pursuits and enthusiasms of Eton boys, and no less than 60 societies exist to further their out-of-school interests. They range from the Aeronautical Society to the Viking Club, and take in on the way madrigals and magic, ornithology and stamp collecting, film-making and politics. Of all the outside influences on Eton, Merseyside is probably the strongest. All young men are alienated from their fathers nowadays. At Eton, the gap must be at its widest. Social service is organised. Boys help in boys' clubs or wash dishes in hospitals or tend gardens for old people. When boys criticise these activities, and they do, it's from a Merseyside angle. It's a bogus relationship, they say, like the squire's wife taking soup to the poor.
I think that there's been an enormous change. I think in the last few years, actually. I think it's probably something to do with the attempts of advertisers and other people to represent the sort of teenagers as a sort of separate, different world. But I think that one of the results of it is that it does make boys of the same age regard themselves as a group. And I think that the strength of the feeling of belonging to this group of young people with the same sort of interests and that kind of thing has done much to break down the old feeling of sort of social division.
senior boys can enjoy their pint in their own club. It's called Tap. They don't sell anything stronger than beer, and there's always such a crush in there and so few people serving that the drinks circulate rather slowly, perhaps by design. The idea behind Tap is that boys will certainly sneak off to drink somewhere. They might as well do it here. Perhaps the consciousness of sophistication as drinkers inspires a sophisticated line of talk.
I think the trouble about it is nobody believes in anything.
They don't believe in anything, for one thing.
You can't make them believe in what you believe in.
Most people are
that's
literally
not what I'm
saying
saying.
things that you don't
I'm
believe
not
in.
saying I should believe in one particular thing. The thing is, I don't believe in anything.
I agree with
They're
that.
very English in that.
And now at 9 o'clock of a summer evening, it's nearing the end of the Eton day. Lockup was at 8. A great number of boys will have leave to pursue their interests in their various societies. The others will be working in their rooms. The housemaster is on his rounds.
Good evening, Eddie. Did you get to this play last night at Queen's Age?
Yes, I did, sir.
What's it like?
It's very good indeed. It's a nice enjoyable evening. You go up on the boat and they give you a very good meal when you get there. And it's very good playing for bargains.
It is?
Yes, it's very good, sir. Yes.
Time has had a strange revenge on Eton. It began as a pious charity for poor scholars, and it's become the great social fetish of the English people. Its huge reputation as a status factory quite overshadows its real virtues as a school. And this is a pity because it has a claim to be the best school in the world. Eton's example could still save us from the consequences of the 11+ examination and the threat of a meritocracy. Here is a school which really believes that the non-intellectual boy's education is as important as anybody else's, and which has a built-in bias in favor of individuality and even nonconformity. The marchers on the 4th of June wanted to abolish Eton, but this is to argue that Rolls-Royces should never have been made. But there is another answer: Rolls-Royces all round. To send a boy to Eton costs only 7 and 6 a week, more than to keep a juvenile delinquent at an approved school. More education on the Eton model might help, available to everybody and free from the curse of status, the upper crust and all that.
The whole of the Eton education and the slant of it is one which discourages parochialism and encourages a fairly wide concept of society as a whole, and therefore I think the boy finds it easy to consider himself belonging to this large, curious, in some way disintegrated, in some way highly integrated society of 1,200 young people. The other is something which I can only answer really by saying I'm frightfully sorry, but I mean, even this hit me when I came as a very new headmaster 5 terms ago. Eton is Eton, and there's nothing more to be said.